I'm Katherine, a mid-career cosmetic surgeon. I've always been a workaholic. After work, I'd read literature or engage in research, and I didn't play around at all until I was 30. And then I finally reached my 30s. The pressure from my parents about when are you getting married has become intense. I had always been focused solely on my work, but I started thinking that marriage might be an option. While discussing this, a colleague from medical school days decided to host a mixer. This colleague is a mixer enthusiast, so he eagerly prepared for it. Then came the day of the mixer. Those gathered included doctors like myself and my colleague, entrepreneurs, lawyers, and so on. It was a gathering of self-employed professionals, and it seemed like we'd have a lot in common. The participants were older, and it seemed like everyone was fairly well off. And there, I met him. The man known as Alex. This jerk? No. This man is a hairstylist. He's in his 30s and owns a hair salon. Though we were in different fields, we both worked in beauty and hit it off because of that. After the mixer, we started seeing each other and soon began dating. We were both in our 30s, and he was nearly 40, so we quickly decided to get married after a year of dating. At that time, he was busy preparing to open a new salon. So, we got legally married first and planned to have the wedding ceremony a year later. I never expected such an incident to happen a year after registering our marriage. Since I started dating him, I had been using his hair salon. But during our relationship, there was something slightly troubling. It was a hairstylist named Betty. She seemed to be competing with me. At first, I didn't care much, thinking, what does that mean? But it gradually became more obvious. This was after we got legally married.
Katherine, have you decided on your wedding dress yet?
Yes, I've decided.
I wonder what design it is. I'm curious.
It's nothing to elaborate.
Katherine, a design that doesn't show your décolleté area would be good for you.
Huh?
In my case, I have a large décolleté area, and I suffer from severe shoulder pain. I have limited clothing options. And men look at me strangely. Does this mean I'm cheap?
Haha. I don't think so.
That's exactly it. I envy your flat figure.
Saying that, Betty flaunted her ample pectorals with a smug look. A complete case of humble brag with a side of one-upmanship. I do have a flat figure, but so what? Even my wedding dress is designed to cover the décolleté area. But I choose not to be dissed by Betty. I said ample pectorals, but Betty is plump all over. Due to my profession, I don't want to criticize people's appearances, but Betty definitely has an unhealthy, indulgent body. Once, she came out from the back with chocolate on her mouth after I brought donuts to the salon. How quickly did she want to eat them? Come on, it's customer service. Don't stand at the front with chocolate on your mouth, right? I also dislike the way Betty enters sentences. Do you really think so? And is that so? Why does she need to be like a parrot every time? Since my husband runs a hair salon, I feel awkward going to other places. I don't go there often, but I keep going because the person who cuts my hair is skilled. But after I started living with him, even more annoying incidents began to occur. He hosts a home party for his staff once a month. Of course, Betty always comes. Every time, she guards the spot next to him. And he praises Betty excessively.
Betty really does a great job. Everyone should take a leaf out of her book.
If minors did that serving customers with chocolate on her mouth, I'd be furious.
In contrast, Charlie here, he barely talks to the customers, so aloof, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Charlie is also a hairstylist at the same salon, and he's the one who cuts my hair. Despite being young, he's quite skilled, and although he's taciturn, he always does exactly what I want. I prefer a quiet hair salon, so I actually appreciated Charlie's reticence. But it's always the same with him praising Betty and putting down Charlie, making everyone uneasy. Betty acts like she's the wife, even going through her fridge, and I'm just constantly annoyed. After these parties, I was always mentally and physically drained. Fed up with Betty's competitive spirit and her behavior at the parties, one day I confronted my husband. Hey, don't you think you're a bit too fond of Betty compared to the other staff?
What are you talking about? No way. I've never played favorites.
Really?
What are you trying to say, Katherine? You think I'm cheating?
Well, you two are always so close. It makes one wonder, you know?
That's too much jealousy, Katherine. I wouldn't do such a thing. I just treat the staff like family. If I've made you feel insecure, I apologize. Sorry for making you anxious.
Nah, okay. With that, he completely denied any affair with Betty. But his nonchalant attitude only made me more suspicious. It was as if he knew I would confront him. There was a rehearsed feel to his responses that I couldn't ignore. Betty's actions didn't seem unilateral, and I started to view my husband with suspicion every day. Then one day, I had plans to go out for drinks with a friend after work. But she had to work late unexpectedly, and our plans were canceled. So, I went straight home after work. When I got home, my husband's shoes were at the entrance. It seemed he had gotten home from work before me. From deep inside the living room, I could hear him talking happily with someone. It appeared he was on the phone with someone on the balcony. At that moment, I felt a woman's intuition for the first time in my life. Fortunately, he hadn't noticed my return. I hid in a small gap by the slightly open balcony window and eavesdropped on his phone conversation.
That was close the other day. Katherine started suspecting our relationship. Well, that was expected, so I just played the loving husband and misled her. I married Katherine, a cosmetic surgeon, thinking I could use her connections for my business, but she doesn't know any celebrities. I thought of getting celebrities who go to her clinic to come to my salon to gain some recognition. I wanted to milk her for money by getting married, but there's no point if it's like this.
Our apartment is right in the middle of a bustling area, and it's quite noisy on the balcony. Maybe he couldn't hear well because of the traffic. So he suddenly turned on the speakerphone, and the next moment,
I can't wait to get married to you.
what? This way of talking, could it be?
Let's just ruin the wedding at this point, shall we?
Sounds good.
How about we frame Katherine for cheating?
We have just the right pawn for that. Let's say she cheated with him.
You're amazing, my dear.
Ew. I was disgusted, utterly repelled. I regretted ever marrying such a man. We hit it off talking about work, and I fell for his passion for his job. But to think he was just using me for his own gains. It was too unbelievable, and I just cooled off completely at that point. So, I decided, I'm going to get my revenge mercilessly. At this point, the wedding was just a month away. That's plenty of time to plan my strategy. From here on, it's all about enjoying the revenge. My revenge plan started with an assistant in tow, and everything was set perfectly. All that was left was to wait for the wedding day. Then it came. I was excited and a bit nervous. I knew about their wedding wrecking plan, but I had no idea when it would happen. But I was prepared for anything. Maybe he and Betty were plotting, because for the month leading up to the wedding, he often came home late. Thanks to that, I had plenty of time to perfect my plan. And finally, the wedding ceremony started. First, the ceremony in the chapel. I imagined a scene where Betty would burst through the doors and whisk him away, but nothing happened during the ceremony. Then we exited the chapel to a flower shower. Nothing happened there either. So, I thought, maybe they'll make their move during the reception. Just then, as we were gathering on the side of the venue for the bouquet toss, I threw the bouquet, and a painful ouch echoed from the group of women participating in the bouquet toss. When I turned around, there were several women falling over and Betty holding the bouquet with a triumphant look.
This was meant to be mine.
The love drama theater casting my husband and Betty finally began. Betty had forcefully pushed her way through the crowd of women to snatch the bouquet. Then, standing on the chapel stairs with a microphone she'd sneaked in, she began her speech.
For the happiness of my dear, I've kept silent about something.
Yeah, here we go.
Your wife, Katherine, has been having an affair with our staff member, Charlie.
Oh, that's the angle they chose.
Katherine, is it true? Answer me. We just vowed in sickness and in health. Why would you do this?
My husband dramatically confronted me. He crouched down, clinging to the hem of my dress, pretending to be utterly devastated. But seriously, such a ham actor. He just went through the motions mechanically like a piece of wood. Betty was slightly better, but she was so self-absorbed it was hard to watch. Performing passionately in the center of the stairs, she probably felt like a big star. The farce continued.
I've always had a crush on him, but as the owner and a staff member, I've kept my feelings suppressed. Then Catherine came along, and I put a lid on this love. But, when I found out Catherine was cheating with our colleague Charlie, I decided I had to save him.
Betty, with eyes reddened, passionately continued her speech. The venue was in chaos. At first, she tried to look crazed, then tried to force tears without blinking. And now, the climax of the drama.
Katherine, I'm breaking up with you. I was betrayed by Katherine, but I found someone who truly cares for me.
My dear,
I should have realized sooner. I've made you suffer, Betty.
all I want is his happiness.
It was supposed to be a touching scene, but because she was forcing tears, Betty's eyes remained wide open as she continued acting. Crying or angry, her expression was just confusing. But in the end, not a single tear fell, just lots of red eyes. They might think it's settled, but they're naive. The show isn't over yet. I get that we're breaking up, but I haven't had an affair.
That's a lie. We even have proof.
With that, Betty scattered photos of Charlie entering my clinic. Caught on camera, This is a bit of a problem, but there's absolutely no affair. Just a bit of a privacy issue. As I hesitated to explain, someone else began to speak. I haven't had an affair. I went to Katherine for advice. Really, Charlie? You're going to say that? This doesn't clear up any suspicions.
Hey, why are you going to Katherine for advice instead of me, the owner?
It's about cosmetic surgery.
What?
What?
I've always wanted to get cosmetic surgery, but I never had the courage. But I thought it would be easier to talk to Katherine, since she's like family. I finally gathered the courage and went to the clinic. And after talking, I ended up wanting to do various skin treatments. I was thinking about getting a nose job, but there's downtime, and I didn't want to go to their wedding with bandages on, since I'm under their care. I've never seen him talk so much before. Even during counseling at the clinic, he just listened quietly and nodded. Charlie confessed on his own, and I thought that cleared the suspicions, but
Nonsense. You're just making excuses. Get out of here, you ugly thing.
Get out, get out.
my husband and Betty forcefully continued their charade. Reluctantly, I was driven out of the venue. My parents and the guests left the venue confused. Well, this was part of the plan, but seriously, ugly, what? That unnecessary remark really ticked me off. So, they really want to punish me that much. Well then, as you wish. I went back to the dressing room to change and fiddled with my smartphone before leaving the venue. As I was waiting for a taxi at the entrance of the venue, I heard someone shouting my name from behind.
Wait for me, Katherine.
My husband was running towards me with a wide stride. No, Betty was probably overwhelmed trying to manage the situation. I instinctively dodged as my husband tried to jump at me. Then he stumbled and nearly fell. My husband regained his composure. He started rambling on again.
Katherine, about earlier. It was just a skit.
What are you talking about?
So, the thing with Betty earlier, it was just a prank to surprise you. So, what now? Shall we redo the wedding?
Get real. Who does that kind of skit? And not even during the reception, but at the bouquet toss? That's not funny at all. Let me guess. Things got so bad you're like, let's just have the wedding after all. Because I had been meddling. Before I left the venue, I was messing with my smartphone in the dressing room, right? I sent a report message to various people. A month ago, I had recorded the conversation my husband had with Betty on the phone. Thanks to him turning on the speaker, I got their entire plot recorded. I sent that recording to my mother-in-law. And just for good measure, I also sent it to the beauty salon's group chat. Plus, I sent the evidence photos. Actually, I had a temporary assistant, Charlie. In exchange for his help with the investigation, I offered him skin maintenance services at the clinic. Charlie, being a beauty enthusiast, quietly accepted and was pleased. With Charlie's help, I also managed to capture the moment my husband and Betty entered a hotel, saying they were inspecting it. Charlie even gave up his day off to follow them. When he sent me the evidence photos,
Skin maintenance. Please schedule it for next week.
Charlie even made a maintenance appointment for me while he was at it. So, I exposed the disgraceful behavior of my husband and Betty to all our relatives. And just as I had hoped, the person my husband feared most took action. It was my mother-in-law. Actually, my husband's family is quite wealthy. Since my father-in-law passed away, my mother-in-law has been managing all the assets. And she was the one who fully funded my husband's beauty salon. But upon learning of my husband's infidelity, she was furious. This was after I had left the venue and sent out all the evidence.
What are these recordings and photos?
What is this?
Mother-in-law, it's not what it looks like. This is.
Mother-in-law, are you my daughter? I don't recall giving birth to anyone but my son. You said owning a salon was your dream. So I trusted you and invested, but I'm truly appalled. I'm taking over the salon. You need to leave the salon.
What?
That's why he came running to me in a panic. By the way, Charlie recorded this situation too. Now, clinging to me, my husband was shedding tears worthy of a leading actor award. Hey, you called me ugly earlier, right? Her? I'm sure some people might think my face is ugly, but someone with an ugly personality like you has no right to say that. And apologize to the person who made my face. I've actually had most of my face cosmetically altered. Being in cosmetic medicine, it was partly for research. In this job, I know professional doctors for each part. I've changed various parts little by little to arrive at my current face. Also, I have a past of being bullied for my looks. In school, my only merit was my studies, and I was admitted to medical school. That's when I learned about cosmetic surgeons. I wanted to help people who suffer like I did. Then, shaking off my husband who was clinging to me, I left the scene. After that, of course, my husband and I divorced. I demanded alimony from both my husband and Betty. My husband and Betty, burdened with alimony payments and job hunting, naturally drifted apart. Who knows where they are and what they're doing now. Later, my mother-in-law came to my parents' house and apologized on her knees. I'm responsible for spoiling my only son too much, she truly regretted. Honestly, I had a good relationship with my mother-in-law, so we still keep in touch even after this incident ended. And she has cut ties with my husband. Now, my former beautician mother-in-law has taken over as the owner of the salon. My husband and Betty were fired from the salon. Now, Charlie is managing the salon. Since Charlie's skills are excellent, I continue to patronize the salon. Also, this is quite a digression, but remember how Betty pushed people aside and caused them to fall down during the bouquet toss at the ceremony? Apparently, some people got injured, like sprains, and she's been billed for their treatment. It's terrible to think she caused injuries to others just for such a farce. As for me, I've returned to my single life. It's all about work, 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 but it seems this lifestyle suits me. Well, off I go to help beautify many people today.